And yes, hello there, it's Matthew Miller, the Millennial Kiwi podcast, and we're talking about the contact tracer app that they're saying it's going to be, they're making a move to make it mandatory for the contact trace, and also the masks as well, and that, oh, well, let's get to it as well, and yes, let's get to it. And for me, I'll never have any plans of getting it. Never. They can't make me. They say military health data shows fewer than 1 in 6 of the 2.3 million registered users are using it daily. And the Minister for the COVID response, Chris Hexman, is looking wherever it should be required to scan off the app at big events like the bars, at restaurants and that, where physical distancing yet, because they're making it. Yes, despite that, because with the tested ticket master to verify the COVID vaccination of state of and before issuing concert bars, so you have to have a vaccination ID certificate. So let's just see what they're saying.
Music lovers about the...
Hope it does. One of the things that people are most looking forward to is going to a live concert, of course. But when you go to a Ticketmaster event, well, you better be able to prove that you've had the COVID-19 vaccine or a negative test.
KCAL9's Candace Crone spoke with the medical expert and some music lovers about the plan.
Well, I know it's a music. I'm not gonna really go any further because due for copyright. Because if I have it yet for on YouTube and that now, so of course they wanted to clarify safety for concert goers. They say, oh, you need to have vaccinations status to get in. Really, people? Really? Well, I'm glad that's not, because man, because due to the YouTube's copyright policy, or doing live stream on D-Live, because you need 1,000 subs to do it, here to do live stream on YouTube. Well, people, unless you can help me get to 1,000 subs, you will never be able to see me do a live stream on YouTube. If you want me to do a live stream on YouTube, you have to get me to 1,000 subs. I know it's a lot to ask. It is, but that's a requirement. I didn't make that roll up. I didn't. So back to that contact tracer. And they say support to make contact trace scanning mandatory. Well, is that so? Is that so? Well, of course, man, COVID support's making so they say, well, let's see what the brave company are got to say. Let's see what this fella's got to say about it. Let's watch this.
Newshub polls are notorious for their bias. At least that's been my experience. I'm pretty sure there's plenty others out there who would agree. Especially the polls they conduct themselves, where they're doing outreach. Whereas the ones that they do, they have a question of the day poll, and yesterday there was one that was put up by Newshub that I don't think that they were expecting the response that it got. The voting closed yesterday, and wow. Okay, so basically it said should using the New Zealand COVID tracing app be made mandatory, to which 81% of people said no, and 19% of people said yes.
Wow! 81% said no. That's you hear that? Wow. I know I'm speaking quite loudly, but man, that's to know that there are people waking up. They know that people don't want to be forced to use it. So, if they're going to try and make it mandatory, it ain't going to go well for the people who passed got to say, oh, it's required the law to actually use it. But now, what, people are not going to have the app. Never, never. They might try to force me to have it, but, and if they say, oh, you need to have to go there. Well, mate, then I'm going to tell you to say that. I'm not going to do business with you if you're going to try to force me to use the app. So you can just suck it. And screw yourself. That's what I would say to those people that say, oh, you need an app to go and get into and be able to use to go into a business or something. And now, well, now it's time to move to face masks. And yes, for Newsroom, they say a plea to make masks mandatory. So they're trying to make it like, to say that they're on public transports. And there's a fellow that said that they want to bring it even further. Really, people wear masks on a plane and on public transport with the help of being a mandatory statement with the fellow human beings around the world. We shouldn't wallow in our success, and nor we should be complacent that it will last. Well, you know that wearing masks doesn't really help. It actually makes you even sicker. And this that lady was angry about, which I will show you about soon. And there's that. And I know I could watch it, but that's about 46 minutes long. Masks will be mandatory on domestic flights as well as public transport in Auckland. And from Thursday. And there's a fellow from university that says, oh, it should go even further. The Otago University Professor Nick Wilson. Let's hear what he's got to say.
A New Zealand public health expert says face masks must be mandatory on public transport right across New Zealand. Cabinet ministers will soon meet to decide whether to make their use compulsory on domestic flights and all public transport in Auckland. Professor Nick Wilson is a public health expert from the University of Otago, and he told me why masks are essential to control COVID outbreaks in Aotearoa.
This is a very good idea.
Is that so? They say it's supposed to say it's going to help.
To mandate mask wearing on flights and public transport, but really it should be for the whole of New Zealand and not just public transport in Auckland.
For the whole of New Zealand. You hear that? Let's go back and let's go back.
Mask wearing on flights and public transport, but really it should be for the whole of New Zealand and not just public transport in Auckland. We really have had way too...
For the whole of New Zealand. Nick Wilson. You say for the whole New Zealand? I'm going to show you a video why we should not be forced to wear masks. I'm going to show you why. Let's go here.
Hi. This is to anybody who is watching who may be an attorney, who I don't know, who's ready to fucking take down the government. That's where I'm at. My son just passed out in school for wearing a fucking mask.
For wearing a mask. I know she swears a bit. For wearing a mask. Her son, I think his daughter, but let's go back. And I know from the iScreen, ice video, I actually did a screen recording course, it was on Facebook, but it got taken down.
My son just passed out in school for wearing a fucking mask. That's where I'm at. In PE, he passed the fuck out because he couldn't breathe. I'm done. I'm done. I'm fucking done.
Yeah, she's angry, and I know I could go and watch more, but that's all we need to see. And people, and that's what this father from Nick Wilson from the Otago University professor saying that the whole New Zealand needs to wear that. Do you know what? A lot of people are gonna pass out. This is Chris, Nick Wilson. You are sick. You are sick. Hate to use put downs, but you are so sick. Nick Wilson, you're sick. So you can just shove your mask at you. Woo woo! At you! Whoop whoop! Oh, gosh. I don't want to actually, I know I could keep on and hear what he's saying, but that's all we gotta say. Let's move on. And of course, yet the landmark Danish cast doubts on the effectiveness of wearing masks alone as effective of COVID-19 strategy. As a result of long-laid Danish mask studies have finally been published and reveal little difference in COVID-19 infection rates between masked and unmasked participants. So it's very little fixed. So people it's either from very little to no help. So masks don't do much. And part the mask will actually even make you sick. Really, people, really. And so that fella Nick Wilson from the Otago University professor says that a whole New Zealand needs to keep wearing masks. Let's just live with like boat transport and flights. Boy, a lot of people will pass out. I'm not sure how long. Yeah, because you're breathing in your own CO2. You're supposed to be breathing out CO2, not breathing it back in. And now let's move on to the next article. And it says, why won't anyone publish the Danish mask studies? Because they want us wearing it. They don't want us to know. Does a mask with a question recently posed by the Danish newspaper and one would seem to demand an answer from scientists and public health officials alike. Yet, despite the mask mandates existing in 34 US states and the District of Columbia, that's what DC stands for, because when you look at the map, say Washington DC, that means Washington, District of Columbia. Or if you think I'm wrong, do correct me on that, please. And there's shocking little hard data about whether or not that slows the spread of infectious disease. Well, if you find out that mask doesn't help at all, and of course, and I'm not sure what that says, because it says forced to lift mask rule after court ruling. And that's over in the German city, it's over in Germany, and they actually forced to remove the mask mandate. Was forced Monday to lift an order for residents to wear masks against the coronavirus after successfully sued against the blanket rule. Awesome. Awesome. But they were, yeah, and of course, South Australia is forced into a 6-day lockdown as a nasty cluster grows. Let's see here.
Australia was put back on high alert on Monday as the state of South Australia ended a month-long streak of no locally transmitted COVID-19 infections. A new virus cluster in South Australia has been linked to 17 infections so far, after a worker from a quarantine hotel infected family members. The news has stoked fears of a new virus hotspot within the country. South Australian Premier Stephen Marshall.
I would like to advise that all inbound international flights to Adelaide have now been suspended at our request for the remainder of this week. Our priority is ensuring that we have enough Medi-hotel capacity to meet any local quarantine requirements. This morning I received a call from the Prime Minister and I accepted his offer for increased support from the Australian Defence Force.
The news has prompted neighbouring Western Australia to order mandatory testing and self-isolation for 14 days for new arrivals from South Australia. The island state of Tasmania also ordered immediate self-isolation for South Australian arrivals, while the Northern Territory will now mandate supervised quarantine. Meanwhile, Australia's two most populous states, New South Wales and Victoria, have yet to announce any changes to border controls. Ever since Victoria emerged from a lengthy lockdown earlier this month to contain its own outbreak, Australia had previously recorded several days of no new locally transmitted COVID-19 infections.
Yeah, so they're back in lockdown for 6 days. I don't think it's going to last 6 days. I think the governor of the South Australia is going to probably find an excuse to say, oh, we're going to increase it for another week because we are starting to get more outbreaks and that though. He'll find an excuse to increase the lockdown. Time it will stay in place. And you can see people wearing masks, but I see some that don't wear masks. That means there are some people awake, including that lady there. And there's another fella there. But you know that masks are no good, people. And we see a lot more, 2 people not wearing masks. Another one there. We got 4 there in that spot there. Well, at least there are some people awake. But they get waiting outside queue for testing. I'm not sure that's the testing place or what. Because, man, you can check in the UK thinking there's a video about it. It was empty. But I think it got taken down off YouTube or something. So, now let's move on to the next article here. And yet, the lawyer suing WHO for crying against humanity over COVID lockdowns. Yeah, because it's then being damaging and that now, and people are starting to sue against it as well, and that's good, and we need people to start speaking about it and sue WHO for their actions. We could watch that, but we're not sure how long that's going to be. It's 49 minutes. That is too long. I know we could. If you want to watch it, you can just. I have a link down below so you can watch it yourself. So, but that's too long for me. Of course, there's the Chinese government there, meaning the. Yeah, of course, with the Chinese runs the World Health Organization. And now, to the next one here. We already covered about the second one. You have to have vaccine statuses, in which we are going to be moving on to the vaccines. And yet, COVID-19 government agreed to, in principle, to buy the Gideon pharmaceutical vaccines. Man, shoot. Man, normally it'll take about 5 to 10 years for the vaccines to be made. And by then, the disease will already been gone before the vaccine was even available. So, And of course, they're there to force it upon us, trying to get us to take it. And here's that Ashley Bloomfield, the absolute muppet. And he says it's going to be effective in that though. And you can just shove that vaccine out his roof. And of course, over in the States, Joe Biden, when he becomes president, advisors say vaccines should be distributed globally, not just America first. Oh, Joe Biden, Dr. Ezekiel was named to Joe Biden's Corona Advisory Team on Monday to publish a paper in September arguing that any vaccine should be distributed globally according to fair priority model. Oh, good grief, people. Good grief. They say it's 90% effective. I say otherwise. Because they rushed it. And of course, from Fauci, social distancing, masks should still necessary after getting corona vaccine. Why would he say that? Or he probably knows it doesn't even work. You still can get sick. And still told you to wear a mask. And social distance. Because it's all about muzzling and keeping you from talking to each other. And now we'll be moving on to Bill Gates. The Bill Gates. The vaccine lover. Well, he's not going to be taking the vaccine himself, but he wants you to take it because he wants to reduce world population. He said it in his TED Talk 10 years ago. He says that, if we really do a great job, we could reduce it by 10 to 15% just through vaccines. Yeah, and he says, even Bill Gates says that. Bill Gates predicts 700,000 victims from corona vaccines. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? That's to know that vaccines are not supposed to be curing the disease. I'll say the medicine is worse than the disease itself. If he's going to be saying that, so. And of course, he's poured another $70 million into pushing COVID-19 vaccines on third world nations as the safety and here in question remains. Really. The billionaire vaccine evangelist Bill and Melinda Gates had taught of the global effort to war against the novel coronavirus. Some Christians reached clinical trials as Gates founded the featured jab. And of course, the featured jab. And yet, you know what that there? That's what Gates are pushing. Gates. And he says has a 95% effectiveness. He's clearance. Man. Oh, man. And Peter and Gates are pushing that. Yeah, there it is. Of the Gates founded. And yet. And there. Yeah. And the Gates are funding it. The Gates. And of course. And they want to tell you that the children should be vaccinated first. They're going to be telling that, say that. Well, let's go there. The World Health Organization is discussing how the best to all locate and products of the COVID-19 vaccine when they arrive. Whoa. They say focusing on the immediate crisis to reduce deaths quickly as they're extremely limited on vaccine dose available, vaccine older, and more violent people, I expect for it to be the best choice, even the vaccine is. Remarkably, is roughly poor at protecting them. If the vaccine is really poor at protecting them, let's go and highlight there. Well, so they're just going to say, oh, if the vaccines are not doing you good, well, you still have to take it. And that's because the elderly is more likely to die from the ears, cause they're more likely, but people should have a choice if they want to take it or not, and it should not be forced upon us. And they want to tell us, say that, oh, the risk benefit of the political COVID-19 vaccine strategy depends on the information we have not got yet. So they're gonna just tell you take an injection, but we have not got information. Wow. Man, people, are you dumb enough to take the vaccine? Are you dumb enough? Because they rushed it. And you don't have any idea what's really in it, but I actually do have any idea. I know a few ingredients, and one is from aborted human fetuses. Ugh, disgusting. Nah, this is not what I want in my body. And, yeah, well, before we go to that though, and of course they need Poo Pro sewage testing for COVID rolled out in New Zealand. So they're setting a Poo Pro so they can get samples to say, oh, it could be your fecal matter. Ugh, gosh. How could you find the disease in the sewer? Well, there's already a lot of stuff lurking, because usually find mostly bacteria and that though, because viruses are immune response. It helps to get rid of the garbage that's in our system. That's why you feel symptoms, because it's getting rid of all the garbage. And now, and for news punch, there, forced vaccination abandoned in Denmark after a mass protest. Oh man. So the people have rose up, man. The law in Denmark will have given government the powers to forcibly vaccinate people with the coronavirus being abandoned after a mass protest for 9 days. Wow. We should probably do a protest like that. Yes, well, in Denmark, the national government proposed a independent law that includes the right to conduct force, physical exams, my authorization, and allow police directed physically coerced vaccine. Or the people resisted, the proposed was dropped. Well done, Denmark. See, that's what happens when you resist and rise up. Let's see what the slave says here. There it is.
Guys. Alright, quick update, guys. They've thrown the epidemic law in the bin. Yes! Denmark did it. I don't know if you can see here, but that's the way it looks.
Oh, man.
This is so amazing, guys. Share the good news, please. Share. Denmark has thrown the epidemic law down the drain. Yes! I'm so happy I can't even speak. I'm crying. This is such a relief.
Man.
And for you who are tuning in who doesn't know anything of what has been happening, Denmark has had an epidemic law that was completely insane. They were trying to impose on its people, and we have been fighting here for over a week. Pots and pans demonstration outside, where everyone is sitting in the Danish parliament, and finally we gotten through to them. Today was the day where it was supposed to be decided if this law went through or not. I'm sorry, I'm holding my phone here and I'm shaking because I'm just so happy. This is such a
I don't
relief.
blame you.
If that law had been going through, Denmark would have been a dictatorship, and it would have been so awful. There would have been forced vaccinations, forced medications, all bad things you could ever imagine. And if you're interested in finding out more, go and look at my other lives and you can see. I just wanted to share the good news with you guys, and I wanted to thank you for all your support, and you have been so amazing sharing everything. And
wow.
The fight is not over, I can tell you that.
Of course it's not.
Not here,
Rwanda,
not anywhere in the world,
battle,
but we will continue
war still raging.
To support each other, and now we know how to do it, right? Denmark showed the way.
Yes, yes. Well, this has shown the world, especially for New Zealand. Well, that's why they don't really want to speak about Denmark, because man, the people in Denmark, man, I thank you for showing up the protest and telling and letting the government know that we do not want this. Awesome stuff. Yes. Awesome stuff. And I cannot thank you enough. I just can't thank you enough. And just because, and for New Zealand, we will lead from example. And we need to get more people in the protests and that though. And the man, we can put pressure on that communist dictatorship that we have in New Zealand. And we will try force them to not. We will force them to not to pass laws that's going to undermine our freedoms. Awesome stuff. And that is the good news, people. That is good. And that shows the power of the people. It shows the power of the people. Yes. Oh, yes. And now let's move on to the next one. Because I'm just so happy what the Danish people have done in the protests. And managed to show what power they really have. So let's move on from here. And yes, the Portuguese appeal court deems PRC tests unreliable. Well, people, yes, the Portuguese professor in lockdown skeptics sent me a long and formal email about the recent ruling by the Portuguese Court Appeal, which had cast the reliability of the PCR test as being a great trooper of the integrity of the Portuguese legal systems that the court seems to understand. Considering the detail, the shortcoming of the PCR test as the diagnostic tool, which paradoxically and when it's not used with the diagnosis, I think it's the best news that we all have all week. What follow is not the whole mail. The possessor doesn't want to be identified, so but I'm only publishing the accent. Oh yes. Well, that's to know that the PCR test doesn't work. And well, people, I ain't gonna move on from here. The top pathologist claims that the coronavirus is the greatest hope ever perpetrated on the unsuspected puglet. Wow. The top pathologist, Dr. Roger Hodgkinson, told government official in Alabama during a Zoom conference recording that all current hoax is the greatest hoax Erasure on the suspected puglet. And let's see what they gotta say.
To S. Peterson. S. Peterson.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dr. Hodkinson. I just want to let you know I'm standing by.
Oh, okay. Well, we would love to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the opportunity to address you on this very important matter. What I'm going to say is lay language and blunt. It's counter-narrative, and so you don't immediately think I'm a quack. I'm going to briefly outline my credentials so that you can understand where I'm coming from in terms of knowledge base in all of this. I'm a medical specialist in pathology, which includes virology. I trained at Cambridge University in the UK. I'm the ex-president of the pathology section of the Medical Association. I was previously an assistant professor in the Faculty of Medicine doing a lot of teaching. I was the chairman of the Royal College of Physicians of Canada Examination Committee in Pathology in Ottawa. But more to the point, I'm currently the chairman of a biotechnology company in North Carolina selling a COVID-19 test. And you might say I know a little bit about all of this. The bottom line is simply this. There is utterly unfounded public hysteria driven by the media and politicians. It's outrageous. This is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting public. There is absolutely nothing that can be done to contain this virus other than protecting older, more vulnerable people. It should be thought of nothing more than a bad flu season. This is not Ebola. It's not SARS. It's politics playing medicine, and that's a very dangerous game.
Exactly.
There is no action of any kind needed other than what happened last year when we felt unwell. We stayed home, we took chicken noodle soup, we didn't visit Granny, and we decided when we would return to work. We didn't need anyone to tell us. Masks are utterly useless. There is no evidence base for their effectiveness whatsoever. Paper masks and fabric masks are simply virtue signaling. They're not even worn effectively most of the time. It's utterly ridiculous seeing these unfortunate, uneducated people, I'm not saying that in a perjurative sense, seeing these people walking around like lemmings, obeying without any knowledge base to put the mask on their face. Social distancing is also useless because COVID is spread by aerosols, which travel 30 meters or so before landing. And closures have had such terrible unintended consequences. Everywhere should be open tomorrow, as was stated in the Great Barrington Declaration that I circulated prior to this meeting. And a word on testing. I do want to emphasize that I'm in the business of testing for COVID. I do want to emphasize that positive test results do not, underlined in neon, mean a clinical infection. It's simply driving public hysteria, and all testing should stop unless you're presenting to hospital with some respiratory problem.
Yes.
All that should be done is to protect the vulnerable and to give them all, in the nursing homes that are under your control, give them all 3,000 to 5,000 international units of vitamin D every day, which has been shown to radically reduce the life.
3,000 international units of vitamin D.
Likelihood of infection. And I would remind you all that using the province's own statistics, the risk of death under 65 in this province is 1 in 300,000. 1 in 300,000. You've got to get a grip on this. The scale of the response that you're undertaking, with no evidence for it, is utterly ridiculous, given the consequences of acting in a way that you're proposing. All kinds of suicides, business closures, funerals, weddings, etc., etc. It's simply outrageous. It's just another bad flu. And you've got to get your minds around that. Let people make their own decisions. You should be
Yeah.
totally out of the business of medicine. You're being led down the garden path by the Chief Medical Officer of Health for this province. I'm absolutely outraged that this has reached this level. It should all stop tomorrow.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
I agree. It should all stop. So with the lockdowns and that should all stop. The testing and that though. There's no yet, and the vaccination and that though they're trying to get it. That should all end. Because I heard there was one volunteer that actually died from the COVID-19 experimental vaccine. That means, because according to the Nuremberg Code, if people do die from, like, either died or get a disability or become seriously ill or something, that means that the experiment should end immediately. But they're still going with their trials. Because I say, yeah, because I heard them say, oh, it's still safe to do. That's going against the, and they still can, and that goes against the Nuremberg Code. And people, there's something being planned. Something is off with this coronavirus thing, though, people. It's all being scanned to get us to accept this great reset, the new normal. They're trying to shut down the economy and try to rebuild it into the way that the elites want it. And we're going to tell the elites that no, we do not want a new normal. Because last week I actually made a video to say that it's the normal that I do not want. And I'll say that, people, this is all I gotta say for now. This is the Manurial Kiwi. I'll see you next Friday, 9 AM New Zealand time. I'll see you then. Bye bye.